Directing is it's hard work.
Absolutely.
Compared to acting, it's like, you show up, you do your thing, and then you leave.
Yeah, right.
And everybody sticks around for the next scene.
Yeah. Day at work.
And the director's there, the first one to get there and the last one to leave.
It's a lonely job.
What are we doing tomorrow? Did we get everything today?
Yeah.
But it was I've done it, and I wouldn't mind doing it again if it was something I really cared about. Like if I wanted to tell a story that I really felt was important, because you spend so much time on it, doing it. I often tell people who are going to do independent films is you will be exhausted on your first day of principal photography. But just getting there.
Already done all the.
You've been searching talent, and you don't know who you're going to end up with, because who knows who's available, wants to do it for that money, or whatever. It's just crazy. So by the time you get to, you go like, oh my God, I'm tired, and I'm starting. I'm just starting, and then of course it gets crazier after that. You don't have one day that goes as you planned it. Not one.
I think it's the loneliest job in the universe.
I think it is.
Seriously, because you're just. I mean,
maybe for president of the United States.
Yeah, exactly. But I know it's similar. I mean, because I've only done two features at this point, but I got to that after my second, because I'm like, you're in your head constantly.
Oh yeah.
And you have to deal with everyone's problems. And I'm not complaining.
No.
We choose this shit.
That's the definition, the job definition.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is I always tell, like, you are existing in 3 days at once. So you're thinking about what you shot yesterday.
Yeah.
You're thinking about what you have to shoot today, and then you're thinking about what you're gonna do tomorrow, and then how it all kind of like pieces together. You're putting that jigsaw puzzle together in your head, and it's very, very satisfying. I mean, I loved the editing process once you get all the footage, and then you can play with it. But it was a rude awakening as an actor. It just gave me such empathy.
Yeah,
I'm very nice to directors now. How can I help you?
How can I make this go smooth?
I know what you're going through.
Yeah. It's like they always say directors should
get a couple
act,
of aspirin. Here's take.
Yeah. Like directors should act or learn how to act, but it's good for actors to direct too.
Yeah. Both.
We learn.
It's so weird doing it. I mean, I think it's a very we've talked about this, but I think it's a very natural course for an actor to become a director. I think it's a very smooth transition, but the opposite is very strange.
Not everybody likes it. I mean, I actually enjoyed it creatively, but I mean, for example, I talked to Anthony Hopkins and he hated it.
Really?
Yeah, he tried it once or a couple times, and it's just like, no. Have you seen him direct anything else? No, I don't think so.
No.
Yeah.
No, he also wasn't into doing stage anymore.
Really?
Doing 8 performances a week was just like, not ready for that.
I feel like he would be intimidating as a director. He would just talk to you very quietly.
Clarice. I'm sorry, Tony.
Here.
No. Well, you know what? I tell you, it's interesting about that. I don't think so at all. That guy is one of the most childlike people I've ever met. Just like such a breadth and depth of talent. He can do anything that he wants, and yet not arrogant about it. Just kind of like, this is what we have to do. I just loved working with him. He's the sweetest man. And we share the fact that my father was an alcoholic. He's an alcoholic. And he told me some very funny stories about his sobriety or attempts to become sober.
Yeah.
And we had a great, great time there. And what was interesting is that we shot it at Sony. And so I was just telling Adam that I grew up, Cuba, a little bit time in Miami, Cuba till I was 8 years old. Miami for like a little over a year. Then we moved to LA, to Culver City, Venice. I went to St. Augustine's elementary school, and we lived a few blocks from there at first, and then moved a little farther when we got a little bigger apartment. And, I lived with my parents in apartments my whole life. But what was interesting is that, I think I was like maybe 10, so 1965. Yeah, I was like, maybe it was earlier, 63 or so, I got a Stingray. And I was tooting around that neighborhood, checking everything out. And me and my buddies were all on Stingrays. We were the precursors of the Mongols, but on Stingrays, Stingray bikes. And so we would run around like a little gang, innocuous gang, but we would run around and we would go to the studio and we would look through the fence. It was Columbia at the time. It wasn't Sony, but we'd look through the fence and we'd see all these actors and period cars and big lights and shit, And I would just be in awe of that world. So then you flash forward 30-something years later, and I'm walking through that studio with Anthony Hopkins doing Nixon in the middle 90s. And I look over at those gates where I used to peek through, and be in awe or admiration of this world that I never imagined I would ever be a part of. And here I was. It's such an interesting, like American dream leap, right? Of something that happened that I never imagined. Like I admire your father in the sense that he kind of knew what he wanted to do early on. No, I didn't quite decide to become an actor until college. I had an affinity for it. I very attracted, but I was very scared of it because it seemed to me precarious. It seemed to me, such great uncertainty that came along with it. And being an immigrant, an oldest son of an immigrant, but also an immigrant. So, you were born here, but I wasn't. So I felt pressure from my parents to kind of set the example of, here, we came here, we risked everything. You need to, carve the way in this new land, in this new culture, this new, family experience, So the option of becoming an actor was like, oh my God, it was so basically unknown and scary. And so I had great reservations about jumping in. But then inevitably, kind of what I see, when I saw the documentary of your father, that kind of like compulsion to do it, like this undeniable pull, and it happened and I remember the play where it happened. I was doing a production of Archibald MacLeish's J.B. at Loyola Marymount University, and I played Nichols. So I don't know if it is a story of Job in contemporary terms, in poetic language. And I was playing the devil. Nichols is really the devil fighting for Job's soul, with God, right? I remember there was a moment there when I was like, like just enacting this ritual. I was going to really win Job's soul. And I was like, all of a sudden I just felt like possessed. So, by this power, this evil power. It's crazy. And I have this dance with this knife and stuff. And I just said, man, this is what I want to do. Because nothing I had ever experienced fulfilled me like that experience, And so little by little, I had to like shed my fears. Not that they went away altogether, but I kept fighting them. And then that's when I think, I got the opportunity to go to the Royal Academy in London and got some more training and just started feeling my talents become more and more effective, more capable, more capacity